Humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Bhagwan. We start today's program with the prayers. Sai Ram.
पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
मनोभूत्यहङ्कार चित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिः न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायुः न वा सप्तधातुः न वा पञ्चकोशः न वा पाणिपादौ न चोपस्थपायो चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। न मे द्वेषरागौ न मे लोभमोहौ मदो नैव मेनैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञाः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपः विभुर्व्याप्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां सदा मे समत्वं न मुक्तिर्न बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्। चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्।
Om Shri Sai Ram. Sai Ram to one and all connected with us through this program. Today is the second day of knowledge sharing session on Nirvana Shapkam by Brother Subramanian. Yesterday, We heard the whole Sampradayam and also the explanation of the first stotra. So without taking much time, over to you, Brother Subramanian. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes.
अज्ञानान्तर्गहनपतितान् आत्मविद्योपदेशैः त्रातुं लोकान् भवदवशिखा तापपापच्यमानान् मुक्त्वा मौनं वडविडविनोः मूलतो निष्पतन्ति शम्भोर्मूर्तिश्चरति भुवने शङ्कराचार्यरूपा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मत् आचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Namaskaram to all. Welcome to the second day of the Nirvana Shatkam. So yesterday we saw these different aspects of how the Prakriti or Srishti happens as per the Vedanta Shastra as it explains to us. You have the unadulterated bhutas that emerge, and from that emerge the antakarana, the inner organs like the mind, the intellect, the ego, the memory stuff, which is called the antakarana, the inner instrument, the different organs of knowledge that bring the external information to these instruments, which are called the jnanendriyas, the vital airs, the pranas that are called the pancha prana or pancha vayu, the organs of action that perform different activities called the karmendriyas, and of course you have the adulterated form of the bhutas, which then result in this gross body and this entire creation. So these were the few aspects that we touched upon yesterday. Now let's start with the stotram itself. Manobodhya hankara chitta ninaham na cha shrotra jihve na cha grana netre na cha vyoma bhumihi na tejo na vayuh chidananda rupah Shivoham, Shivoham. I am not the mind, the intellect, or the ego, or the memory stuff. So what is Acharya speaking about here? Isn't he speaking about the Antakarana that we just saw? The Antakarana that got developed from the 5 elements. He is negating, I am not this Antakarana. I am not these 4 aspects of this Antakarana. Nacha shrotra jihve, nacha ghrana netre. Shrotram is the hearing capability. Jihva is the speech capability. Granam is the smelling capability. Netram is the seeing capability. You might ask, how come Shrotram, Jihvam, Granam, Netram, all these are supposed to be physical organs, right? Why am I mentioning them as capabilities? These are called as Indriyas. Jnanendriya, they are called. The organs of knowledge. See, one must understand in our Shastra, just because you have a nose in the physical body doesn't mean that you should smell. Just because you have eyes in the physical body doesn't mean that you have to see. The Shastram is reverse. It says, first the capability of seeing developed, and to ensure that that capability is coming out, is expressed, the eyes got manifested, just to act as a medium to see the world. So first the power or the capability of seeing manifested, and then manifested the eyes. The power of smelling manifested, and then manifested the physical nose. Similarly for the jihva, for the shrotram and everything. That is why these are treated as subtle elements. They are not the physical organs that you see. They are the subtle elements, and hence they are called the jnanendriyas. The indriyas are always subtle. They are not the physical organs. Jnanendriyas, because they are helping us know about things. The Shrotram is helping us hear and find out about a few things. Jikwa is helping us taste and find out. Granam is helping us smell and find out. The eyes are helping us see and find out. The one indriyam that is missing here is the twak, or the skin, which is sensation. It is sensing something and finding out. So these are all jnanendriyas. These are all instruments of knowledge. That is why they are called jnanendriyas. That also he negates. He says, I am not any one of them. I am neither the antakarana, the inner instrument, the mind, intellect, and everything which does the various activities of thinking, of discriminating, of rationalizing. I am not any of that. Neither am I the instruments, these external indriyas that bring information to the antakarana. Nor am I the even basic thing of the tanmatras that create these instruments. We saw how the ether, etasmad atmanaha akashas sambhutaha akashat vayuhu vayor agnihi agnerapah, how the elements develop one by one. I am neither of them. I am neither of those bhutas, those tanmatras, nor what the tanmatras created, these antakaranas, or the further jnanendriyas that were created. I am none of these. What am I? Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. I am something different than all of these. Something that is beyond all of these. That means none of this is me. I don't identify myself with any of this. So all these are crossed in our slide. The matras go off, the antakarana goes off, and the jnanendriyas also go off. Now coming to the term Chidananda Rupaha. You all would have heard the term Satchidanandam. Brahma Swarupam is described as, in different ways it is described in the Upanishads and our Vedanta Shastras. One of them is Sattam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Another form is Satchidananda Rupam. The form of Brahman is Sat Chit Anandam. Sat means to exist. The very ability to exist, existence, that itself is an ability. Existence, that life force, that existence is an ability. That's the first form, aspect of knowing Brahman. The second aspect of knowing Brahman is Chit. Not existing, just existing, but knowing, being aware, being conscious. That knowledge through which you are able to know, consciousness, Chit. The third is Ananda. Just existing and just knowing is not enough. At the end, I need to feel blissful, happy, contented. See, Anandam should not be translated in the more common form that we know today, Anandam. Today, Anandam actually has to be translated as Harsham or excitement, or you get a rush, an adrenaline rush. All these are classified as Ananda today. That is not Anandam. The Anandam, as per the Shastras, is in a very vague way, you can say completeness, fullness. There is no want. There is nothing wanted. There is nothing desired. There is no space for any more desire or space for any more want left. That is Anandam. Completeness, fullness. That is what gives bliss. So bliss has to be related with completeness and fullness and not related with excitement. So this is the nature of Brahman. Sat Chit Ananda. Then shouldn't Shankara have said Satchidanandoham? Why did he say Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham? Why Chidananda only? Why not Sat? Sat is existence, is probably among the three the most known to all of us. Does anybody need to tell us that we exist? Isn't it? Does anybody need to give us information from outside that we exist? No, I know I exist. That is something that is Swabhodam, Svecha, by your own self. By yourself you know it. There is no need for any external agent to tell you that you exist. So existence is probably something that is already known. So Sat aspect is known. The Chit and Anandam aspect are the things that are a bit tricky. Now let me come to the model that we discussed yesterday. We discussed about this model, right? We spoke about the different koshas, the physical body, the subtle body, the causal body, all these things we spoke about. When you're awake, you are in the physical body. When you're dreaming, you are in the subtle body. So let's forget even the dreaming. Let us be in the deep sleep state. Okay, not now. Let us assume the deep sleep state. In the deep sleep state, what you experience when you get up This faint memory tells you that I slept peacefully. I had a nice sleep. What was there for you to feel nice about? What was there to feel so happy about? Did you see something there? No. Did you eat something? Did your tongue work? No. Did you hear something? No. Did you feel something? No. Did you smell something? No. So none of the indriyas worked. Did you dream something? No. Because it's a dreamless state. So none of the antakaranas, none of the indriyas, nothing worked. Then what was there? I don't know. I didn't see anything. I didn't feel, nothing was there. But I felt happy. I felt not even happy. I felt so refreshed, peaceful. So in that state, that Anandamaya Kosha, Ananda, that bliss is being shown to you. It is being given, you are given a glimpse of that Ananda. That is why it is Anandamaya Kosha. It is not Ananda Kosha. If it was Ananda Kosha, it would have been Brahman. It would not have been Kosha anymore, because Brahman is Ananda, no? But we are saying this is the covering around Brahman. So how can the covering around Brahman be Anandamaya? It is Anandamaya. That means Mayat, that suffix is used for Prachurya. That means there is majority Ananda there, but it is still not 100% Ananda. That is why that also has to be removed, and you have to go to the Brahman inside, which is only Ananda, right? So, but in this Anandamaya, you are given those glimpses of what that Ananda could be. So that Ananda, you get these glimpses, but there is no consciousness, there is no awareness, because you did not know anything. So the consciousness, awareness is missing sometimes, and only Ananda keeps glowing. And when you are in the world, you start knowing everything. You are able to see your inner feelings and everything, but Ananda goes away. You start feeling depressed, the mental emotions take over. So that Ananda which you felt at sleep is lost when you are awake. And the knowledge and awareness which you had during your waking state to some extent, that is lost when you are asleep. So it is playing hide and seek. So the Chit and Ananda, they are playing hide and seek. They are not coming together with Sat. When they come together, when all these three come together, is when that realization happens. That is why probably Shankara here mentions Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham, because Sat is known, but the Chit and Ananda aspects also have to be realized and established. So the first shloka, he has negated half of the existence, whatever we identify with. The next one, न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायुः न वा सप्तधातुः न वा पञ्चकोशः न वाक्पाणिपादौ न चोपस्थपायो चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायुः. We spoke about the vital airs. They are 5 in nature. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. These are the 5 vital airs. How can air be 5? Are they entering through 5 different ways? 5 airs are coming into ourselves. We are breathing only through the nose. This is the only way air is entering us. Then how 5 different types of air are entering us? No. They are named differently. That is why Shankara beautifully mentions here, Prana Samjnaha. The name is, there is only one name for that air. It's called Prana. Prana Vayu. There is only one air that you breathe in. That air is only there all through your body. That is called Prana. But based on its function, based on what it does, it is classified into 5. That is why it becomes Panchavayu. Not just Panchavayu. The Shastras mention many more Vayus, many more functions. It's all based on the functions. It is just like you are one. But when you are in the school, you are a teacher. When you are in the office, you are a manager. When you are at home, you are a mother or a father. The same way. Based on the functions that you do, the Vayu is classified into different names. So the Prana is the breathing force, right? Which takes the external air inside, which facilitates your breathing. Apana, something that pushes you down. Vyana, something that circulates the whole thing. So these different kinds of functionalities are there for each of these Vayus. So through Prana Samjna and Panchavayu, he has negated all the vital airs. All the functions performed by the air are negated. I am not any of these. I am neither the breathing process, the air that helps in breathing process, nor the air that helps in the excretion process, nor the air that helps in circulation of the blood, nor the air that helps finally when the body dies in taking the prana out of the body. I am none of these. I don't belong to, I don't identify with any of these vital airs. Nava sapta dhatuhu. This we saw yesterday. The sapta dhatu, the seven dhatus, we saw them as components of the physical body. That's how Ayurveda and naturally our Vedas analyze our body as made up of sapta dhatu. So the moment he says, I am not sapta dhatu, what is he saying? I am not this physical body because I don't identify with any of its components. Nava sapta dhatuhu. Nava panchakoshaha. Now he's going even further and saying, I am neither of these koshas only. He's just summarizing. Earlier he said, I am not the manas and buddhi and other things. I am not the jnanendriya. So he's already negated the vijnanamaya kosha, manomaya kosha. Now he said, I am not the pranas, and later he's going to speak about the karmendriya. So he's negated all the koshas, all the sheets, annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, vijnanamaya, even anandamaya. All the five koshas I am not. That means whatever we experience in our life, either when we are awake or when we dream or when we are in deep sleep, none of them is me. Because in all those states, I am assuming some form and I am still not, I have not reached my true nature. So he has negated the gross body and he has negated all the sheets, all the koshas are negated. That means your very identification of all that you identify with has been negated. Again, he re-emphasizes the karmendriyas because he has not spoken about the karmendriyas earlier. Navakpani padau nachopasta payu. One thing that strikes me, because if you look at the later works of Acharya, be it the Viveka Chudamani and all these great works, right? There is a beautiful structure that flows in Acharya's works. See, this is the first time a young lad of 8 years is meeting his guru. His experience is this, no doubt. But as you can see, first he speaks about the Antakarana, then he comes to the Jnanendriyas. Within Jnanendriya, he speaks about the four Jnanendriyas. Then he comes to the different Tanmatras. Then he comes to the Prana. Then he comes to the Saptadhatu. Then he again goes back to the Panchakosha. Then he comes to the Karmendriya. So there is a lot of different things as he is experiencing. So we should not apply this to a logic and say that, no, he has already spoken about Panchakosha. Then why is he again speaking about this? No, this is the experience that is speaking. The Anubhava, the Pratyaksha Anubhava is speaking. So there could be possible that repetitions come in this. There could be possible that few eliminations are there in this. But it is an outcome of Anubhava. Not to say it is erroneous. You cannot. I am no one to comment and say that about Acharya's any of the works. It is the truth. It is Satyam. But the way we have to interpret, if you go with an academic mind and you cannot, the reason I'm saying this is, we are not supposed to bring these inconsistencies in the stotram and say that there are inconsistencies. No, there are not inconsistencies because they are an outcome of Anubhava. So he says, Navakpani padau nacha upastha upayu. I am neither the vak, the speech, the tongue, pani padau, the hands or the legs, upastha upayu, neither the excretory organs nor the reproductive organs. These are only things that work in the body. These are the karmendriyas. I am none of them. I am the Shiva, which is beyond. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Another clarification I gave you yesterday also. Shiva does not mean the deity Shiva or Devata Shiva. The moment he has said Chidananda Rupa, an Acharya who is saying, I am not any of these aspects, I am not this body, I am not this. Why will he say I am that Shiva who is wearing the Rudraksha and the Tripundra and everything? How will he relate to that? No. Because his Anubhava is that it's that state where he is going towards himself. At that time, he will not speak about a Devata Shiva. Shiva means auspiciousness. Shiva is the Atma Tattvam, is called Shiva. Shivam, that is the most auspicious thing in the world. In the universe, if there is anything that is most auspicious, that is Brahman, that is Atma, that is your own nature, your own self is the most auspicious. The day you know your true nature, that is the most auspicious moment. Most Mangala Muhurtam is that when you know who you are, when the real nature is revealed to you. So that is Shivam. That is the most auspicious of all. That is why he says Shivoham, not once, twice. Shivoham, Shivoham. Conviction. If you say anything twice in Sanskrit literature, it means that you are re-emphasizing the point. You are making it more firm. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. Shivoham, Shivoham. So all bodies are negated now. All the types of bodies have been negated through these two shlokas. All this, all that we spoke, the entire cycle has become a cross. None of this is me. न मे द्वेष रागौ न मे लोभ मोहौ मदो नैव मे नैव मात्सर्य भावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्. Dvesham. न मे द्वेष रागौ. Hatred or attachment. Lobha moha, greed or delusion. Mado naiva me naiva matsarya bhavaha. Neither mada or pride or arrogance, nor matsaryam, nor competition. Dharma, righteousness, artha, all the wealth and prosperity, kama, the desires, moksha, liberation, and not even that. First and all is name. These don't belong to me. I don't have dvesha, I don't have raga, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. These are not things that belong to me. Then I am none of these four things of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. What are these? Are these a random set of words he is introduced? No. What do these mean? So first he has negated all the bodies which you identify with. Now other than the bodies, what else do you identify with? You say he is an angry person. Who is an angry person? Anger has come. It has taken birth in that person and it has manifested. Is he an angry person? The moment you say he is angry or I am angry, you have identified yourself with anger. You have identified yourself with attachment. He is a greedy person. You have identified him with greed. So all these six qualities, the Shad Ripus they are called, the six enemies towards spiritual attainment. They are called the Shad Ripus, the six enemies. These six enemies I am not. I am not, they don't belong to me. I don't have any of these six. Neither starting from Raga Dvesha. None of these. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna even goes further down. He will say that everything is because of Raga Dvesha. Everything is because of attachment and aversion. Because only through attachment, Lobha, Moha and other things start. So, all these qualities which hinder my spiritual progress and my understanding of the self, I am not. What is Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha? They are the Purusharthas. The goals of human endeavor as per Sanatana Dharma is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Artha, we understand, earning money. That is what we do, even if the Vedas don't tell, we will do. Isn't it? Kama, desires. Even if the Vedas don't tell us, we will desire. Many things, even beyond what we can or we are capable of, we will desire. So Artha and Kama doesn't need explanation. What needs explanation is Dharma and Moksha. Earn wealth, no problem. Satisfy your desires, no problem. But do it in a dharmic way. Do it in a righteous way. That is why Dharma comes first in our Sanatana Dharma, in our tradition, in our Sampradayam. Dharma comes first. First know what is right. Then go to the world and start earning money or satisfying your desires. Then you will know how much, where you have to stop. Else what will happen? Like it's happening with most of us. You start earning money, you don't know when to stop. What is the limit? I want to become a millionaire. Okay, then I want to become a billionaire. Then, so there is no end. That will happen if there is no Dharma. If the Dharma is not clear, this is what will happen. The moment Dharma is clear, you know that I cannot go beyond this because it is Adharma. So while remaining in Dharma, whatever I can, I will. The moment it goes to Adharma, I cannot. So while remaining in Dharma, satisfying your Artha and Kama, and when you are tired with this Dharma, Artha and Kama, Dharma, Artha, Kama, desiring for liberation, that is Moksha. But Acharya says here, I am none of this. I am beyond all of this also because my true nature is not. When I am doing all these things, I am still not in my true nature. I am still somebody who is trying to attain his true nature. So when in the true nature, when I am experiencing the self, I am none of these. I am not even these steps or the process which helps me attain. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. So all the emotions, all the feelings, all the social structure, everything is negated. Na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham, na mantro, na tirtham, na veda, na yajnaha. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Acharya is going a step ahead. What do we commonly tell our children or our friends, or we have heard? You should do punya. Try to earn punya. Don't do papa karmas. Right? Up to a level it is okay. But when you cross that level, there is no punyam papam left for you. You are in quest of truth. You are in a journey to know the truth, your true nature. In that journey, there is no punyam or papam anymore. Because punyam and papam is also based on certain conditionings, based on certain circumstances, based on certain social structures. When all these, when your body itself is not you, then how does punyam and papam come into the picture at all? So no punyam, no papam. Naturally, no saukhyam, no dukkham. There is no sorrow or no happiness for me, no excitement, pleasure and pain for me. The body might be experiencing pleasure, pain, the mind might be experiencing, but I am not, because I am neither of those. Na mantro, na tirtham, na veda, na yajnaha. Chant the mantra, you will get so and so. I am not, I neither want that, nor am I this mantra, nor do I want this mantra to chant and get that. Na tirtham, go to this temple, this will happen. I don't want that result also, I don't want to go to the temple also. Na vedaha, the basic. See the beauty of our dharma, of the Sanatana dharma. In any other dharma, you cannot go beyond the basic, right? If there is a basic, if there is a holy book or a god or a devata, you cannot go beyond that devata or that book. The book is supreme. That constitution is supreme. For us, Vaidika dharma, Vedas are supreme. But here, Acharya is saying, na Vedaha. I am not the Vedas also. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. That is what he says, Arjuna. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. The Vedas contain material which is composed of Trigunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Go beyond them. That is our dharma. Quest of seeking our true self, which is not restricted by anything. Nothing can restrict it. That is the quest of knowledge, of truth. Na yajnaha, not any of the rituals. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. Now this should not be taken just as bhojanam, as eating. Bhojanam, bhojyam, bhokta. See, any activity has got three things associated with it. Like if I am eating, there is the eater, the person who is eating, the thing that is being eaten, and the activity of eating. There are three things. So there is a bhokta, the one who is enjoying the food, eating the food. There is a bhojyam, which is being eaten, and there is a bhojanam, the activity of eating. This is with anything. Knowledge. There is a jnata, a person who is knowing. There is an object that is being known, and the process, that is knowledge, process of knowing. So these three aspects are there in every action in the world. It is called as triputi or a triad. Every action in the world will have these three aspects, and these three are known to us, right? Whichever activity we do, these three are very much clear to us, because we still see the world as this diverse world. So I am different, the activity I am doing on is different, and the activity itself is different. Then all these three disappear. The differences between all these three will not disappear. These three will still remain, but your approach, your vision changes, and these three merge into one. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. I am neither of these three. That means I cannot be given these labels. I am one. I am that single thing that is there everywhere, that is present everywhere. Hence, I cannot visualize myself in these three forms. of enjoyer, of something being enjoyed, and the act of enjoyment. So that is why the first aspect, it negates, it's beyond all these punyam, papam, all these effects, phalas. The second, beyond all aspects of religion. And third, beyond this triad or triputi, it is beyond all of this. So with this, what happens? The right and the wrong, what is good and bad, right and wrong, gone. Religion, gone. Very perception of the universe, which is happening through this triad or triputi, gone. All these aspects are negated. I am none of these. न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्. Now here he is negating all sorts of relationships. First, na me mrityu. I don't have mrityu because I am not the physical body or the mind or anything that has to have an end. So I don't have mrityus. Shanka. Shanka is commonly translated as doubt, which I have mentioned here. But here Shanka shouldn't be taken as just doubt. All the vagaries of the mind, all the chitta vrittis, the different modifications of the mind, the different variations of the mind, the vagaries of the mind is not me. It is vagaries, modifications of the mind. Mind is not me. So the modifications also don't belong to me. Name jati bhedaha. I cannot be classified as a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra. I cannot be classified as a Brahmachari or a Grihastha or a Vanaprastha or a Sannyasi. I cannot be classified as an upper caste or a lower caste. I don't belong to these classifications because I am that supreme life force that is there everywhere. How can you classify that life force? Impossible. Pita naiva me naiva mata na janma. A pita or a mata comes because you are born. Only because you have a physical body and you take birth, the one who gives birth to you, she is the mother, and through whom you have taken birth is the father. Because of whom? So the father and the mother come into the picture because of your deham, because of the janma, the physical janma that you have taken. When I have negated that physical body itself, when I negate that I don't have any janma, I don't take birth at all. There is no janma for me. I am always there. How will I take birth? So when janma itself is negated, how does mata and pita come into the picture? They also don't come into the picture. That is why in our the punarjanma, when we talk about also it applies. Every janma there is a different mata or pita. So that is the other extreme. Here this extreme is there is no janma, so there is no mata, no pita. Even if you assume you have janma, you are taking birth, that means you will again take birth as rebirth. There will be several matas and several pitas over crores of births. So there is no one supreme father or mother. That is why when you say Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, you are only the mother and father, O Lord, because all these mothers and fathers, they keep on changing with every birth. Thankfully, I don't remember the previous ones. Otherwise, I would have gone mad. Na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishya. Na bandhuhu na mitram. I don't have any bandhu, any close relatives, because they are all related to this body. Mitram, friends also related to this body. Because I am existing, I have some friends who do good to me, who are amicable to me. That's how the friendship develops. Namitram. Even the ultimate, the most, in the spirituality, the ultimate relationship, even if a sannyasi, he discards of all relationships and everything, still the guru sambandham will always be there. Even if you look at the sannyasi paramparas and the different paramparas, guru parampara, all relationships are gone. But the guru-shishya relationship is still there. Acharya is telling his guru, Gurur naiva shishyaha. I am neither the guru nor the shishya. So that relationship is also not there. Because I am the Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Okay, you have said you are not this, you are not this, you are not this. And what are you? In positive ways, how can you tell? We also said in the beginning, very difficult to describe Brahman positively. But he has described all the neti, he has discarded of everything. Then what are you? If you are none of these, which we typically identify ourselves with all of these, but none of these are me, then what am I? Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupaha vibhurvyapya sarvatra sarvendriyanam सदा मे समत्वं न मुक्तिर्न बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् aham nirvikalpo. I am that is changeless. All that is mentioned till now is all changing, keeps on changing with every birth, with every second, with every moment, with every day. All these are changing, but I am the changeless which is looking at all these changes. I am that changeless substratum on which all this is changing, and I can perceive that. Nirakara Rupaha. I cannot, and when I am the changeless attribute, how can I have a form? Because the moment I have a form, I have restricted myself. But I am that thing which doesn't have any of these restrictions. Means I cannot have any akara, any kind of form. So I'm formless. Vibhuhu, Vyapya Sarvatra Sarvendriyanam. All the indriyas. Here indriyas don't just mean the Jnanendriya, Karmendriya. He's talking about all organs. Be it the mind, be it the intellect, whatever it is. Sarvendriyanam Vibhuhu. I am the Lord. Vibhuhu, Prabhuhu. I am the Lord of all the indriyas. Of anything that gives, that you identify with and that you are considering as yourself. I am the Lord of all that. I have created all that. I am not any of them. Sarvatra Vyapya. I am present everywhere. There is not even one place where I am not present. So when I am present everywhere, there cannot be any change in anything because I am that basic substratum. Sadame samatvam na muktihi na bandhaha. I am always that samatvam, that equipoised level always. Because I don't have identification with any of these. Na muktihi na bandhaha. I am neither bonded nor I need liberation. Only if I am bonded, I need liberation. I am not bonded. So there is no liberation also for me. Only if I believe I have bondage, I need to find ways of liberation. But if I know that I am not in bond at all, in bondage at all, then why do I need liberation? Na muktihi na bandhaha. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. Another version of this is also aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo vibhutvacha sarvatra sarvendriyanam. Vibhutvat, because of vibhu, because of the vibhutvam, prabhutvam, sarvatra sarvendriyanam vibhutvat aham nirvikalpaha. I am nirvikalpa nirakara because of the lordship I have over everything. Nacha asangatam naiva muktihi na bandhaha. Nacha asangatam. Asangatam is attachment, is a association. Nacha asangatam. I don't have association with anything. I don't associate with anything. I don't identify with anything. Because I don't have identification with anything, I don't have either mukti or bandha. I am neither bonded nor do I need liberation. Chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. The one important thing I would like to mention, the most common question can now come. Acharya says, I am not this, not that, then what is there in life? Does he just ask us to sacrifice everything and go? Did Acharya do that? No. This was his experience. He had that experience and then he led a life of 24 more years on this earth. And what all did he not do in those 24 years? So, your life is not opposed to any of this. Knowing all this will make your life better. Knowing all this will help you function in the life in the best way. So, all these 6 shlokas, the 6 verses have to be treated as a medicine, have to be treated as an injection that has to be given. And the moment you are in that Shivoham, Shivoham, that Chidananda Rupam, it is not that the world will disappear for you. Yes, it might at a philosophical level, at the Paramarthika, it will not exist. In the Laukika level, you will be the most efficient. That is what the Krishna says also in the Bhagavad Gita. So all these 6 verses are like medicine, are like spiritual medicine, contemplated, constantly meditated, recited. Each and every word has to be thought upon, has to be meditated upon. And the moment you reach that Chidananda Rupa, it is not that you will leave everything and go. Everything would have left you already, and still you will function in the most efficient way in the universe. So this is where I conclude the 6 verses of Nirvana Shatkam. See, even 2 days is not enough to comment on all these. Probably every line has to be commented on one day. This is that kind of a shlokam. And probably this is also why Acharya was also not satisfied with this shlokam. He composed so many stotras and so many bhashyas and everything all his life. He's not getting enough of Brahman. He keeps on speaking about Brahman. So this, in the Brahma Sutras, we say Avrittihi Asakrit Upadeshat. Avritti, you should keep on chanting, you should keep on talking about it, you should keep on meditating on it. That's the only way to remain. That is the sadhana that we have to do. But due to limitation of time, this could have been extended to any number of days. But despite that, I wanted to keep it crisp and short. And of course, we can take further sessions depending on specific interests from all of you. So I end my session here. Namaskaram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, brother. And also thank you for the beautiful rendering of Nirvana Shatkam. Today's video which we played, that was actually sung by brother Subramanian. So we moved to the question answer round. There were a couple of questions which we are not able to answer yesterday. So we moved to the first one. If we are one, the ultimate reality, then who is incarnating as Sadguna Brahman to impart Vedic knowledge to us?
Yes. See, there's a beautiful shloka that is there in our Shastras. It says, Ishwaror Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. It's a shloka on Dakshinamurti, who is regarded as the Guru Tattvam itself. It says, Ishwaraha Guruhu Atma iti Murti Bheda Vibhagine. That same Murti, that same principle manifests itself as three things. The Ishwara that you consider the Devata or the God, the Guru, and your own Atma. It's all but one. That Atma, which is there inside you, because you are not able to see it inside, it manifests outside as a Guru. And when even that does not happen, it manifests itself as a Devata or an Ishwara and tells, now at least see me. As an Ishwara or a Guru, and finally as the Atma. So all are actually one. They are just manifesting in different ways for you to help realize that you are Chidananda Rupa.
Thank you. So the next one is the difference between Chitta and Vritti, and where are they located in the koshas? So I would request you to please also let us know what are Chitta, Vritti and koshas also.
Yeah. So kosha, as I was explaining, these are the different levels. As I said, this is the physical body is called the Annamaya kosha. So it is, kosha means a cover, a covering, right? A sheath. That is what we wrote in the slide, a sheath or a covering. So as I spoke about that story of Upanishads, when you go on unlayering, when you remove one after the other, you keep on removing the covers, you then finally, it's like the peeling of the onion, right? You go on, start peeling and you start getting to the core. Like this, you start peeling one by one. So each of them is called a kosha. The physical body is one kosha, the vital airs are another kosha, the mind is one kosha, like that it keeps going. Now coming to Chitta Vritti, the Yoga Sutras, the very first, after Atha Yoga Anushasanam, after the first sutra, it says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The definition of yoga Patanjali gives is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So what is Chitta and Vritti? He describes. He doesn't describe the Chitta part, the Vritti part. See, Chitta, there are different shades to it. There is a word called Chit, which we also wrote in the slide, Sat Chit Anandam. That Chit is consciousness, which is Brahman. Okay, that is Chit. That something that emerges from Chit, something that is a product of Chit, is Chitta. That is why in the Lalita Sahasranamam, the Devi or Prakriti or Shakti is called Chit Agni Kunda Sambhuta. She has come from Chit Agni. She has come from that Brahman. That Brahman, which is there, which is inert. The Brahman doesn't move. But if the creation has to happen, something has to move. So that Prakriti comes in the form of Lalita, comes in the form of Shakti, in the form of that Chit Agni, Kunda Sambhuta. She is called Chitta. She becomes Chitta. So this Chitta is the active aspect. You can call it Prakriti, you can call it Maya, you can call it Shakti, whatever you want to call it. All the creative aspect that comes out of that Brahman is Chitta. Now we also described Chitta as a part of the Antakarana. That is taken differently as a memory. In few places, Chitta is translated as memory or the mind stuff. So in those places, it is just performing a very limited function. But when you say Chitta Vritti, at that time it is speaking about that creative force that has come out of Brahman, of the Chit, that is chitta. And the vrittis are the various activities or modifications or functions of this chitta, which includes your knowledge, knowing, memory, it includes sleep, it includes wrong understanding, doubting. All these come part of that chitta vritti. This is a topic in itself which is part of the Yoga Sutras, so it has to be dealt with more there. But just to clarify the terms, so chit is different, then comes chitta, and then there is a limited definition of chitta which relates only to the memory aspect. And where it is located in the koshas, naturally if it is chit, then it is Brahman, it is beyond koshas. Chitta is the very source. You can call it the Anandamaya kosha maybe. It is that very source which has just come out of, but it is not even Anandamaya kosha because it is the reason why the Anandamaya kosha has come into existence. So it's even more subtler than that. If you call memory, then it is specifically there along with either in the Vijnanamaya kosha or Manomaya kosha. It is situated in those koshas, if you just consider it as memory.
So any particular time that we can chant this stotra, and like the do's and don'ts, like when somebody reciting Atma Shaktam or say Nirvana Shaktam?
Yeah. So one thing that I would say is the time. Okay. Now the time depends upon when is your time for Atma Vichara. This is a shlokam for Atma Vichara. This is a stotram for Atma Vichara, for contemplating on your true nature. So whichever time you do the contemplation for on your true nature, that is the time for chanting the stotram as the first starting point. You should start with the stotram. That will aid you in your Atma Vicharam process. Typically, of course, you have in the yoga and other things, they speak about different times. The early morning, Brahma Muhurta, when everything is calm, it aids you. Or in the night, when everything is again calm, it again aids you. So different kinds of, or the Sandhya time, when again, the morning Sandhya, Prata Sandhya and Sayam Sandhya, when again, the nature becomes, when there is a joining that is happening between the noon and the night, or the morning and the noon, etc. So these times have been prescribed by our Shastras for different activities, for different karmas. But Atma Vichara, there is no specific time for it. It only depends on your own mental state. But still, for meditation and other things, these morning and nights are prescribed where things are calm. So naturally, they will aid. The other thing that I would like to say is do not by heart. Don't by heart any of the shlokas. Even if you by heart, when you're chanting, ensure that every word you are contemplating and rethinking on each and every word. The problem of by hearting, which we have sort of mastered the art, all stotras we by heart, then we have got the complete license to keep on, the mouth will keep on chanting the stotra and we will continuously keep on doing something else. This is definitely not applicable for Nirvana Shatkam at all. You will neither get Nirvana, you will get nothing. Probably you would have just wasted some time in blabbering out certain words. I'm literally putting it bluntly. Blabbering out certain words. Probably you could have utilized that time much better for some worldly activities. That would have been much more productive. So Nirvana Shatkam has to be done only when there is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You are hearing the word, you are thinking about those words, and you are also contemplating what it means. The meaning will not come in the very first instance, only the word bookish meaning will come. But slowly and slowly, the Atma itself will reveal itself to you. That is the spiritual progress, which cannot be put into words.
I feel that goes with every shloka, that Shravanam is very important, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we go to the next question. That is, so you had said that the Anandamaya Kosha surrounds the Brahman, and that we have to cross the Anandamaya Kosha to experience or realize the self, that is Brahman.
Yeah.
So how can a finite kosha contain or surround the infinite? That is the first question, and there are sub questions to it. That is it not the truth that all are contained within the substratum or manifestation on the substratum?
It's a beautiful question, of course, which cannot again be answered in a few minutes. How can a finite thing contain the infinite? How can darkness contain light? We commonly say Brahman is the supreme light, and avidya is ignorance, darkness. Where in the world have we seen darkness containing light? Where have we seen the finite containing the infinite? That itself means that that is Brahma. That is just a delusion. that it is containing. But then you can ask, then did we do 6 verses of and 2 days of just Brahma? That means nothing was there. You just said something which doesn't even exist. Now, all that we said is Acharya is applying to the world. He says the world does not exist. There is only Brahman. The same point I reiterated yesterday. There is Ishvara. The very first Ishavasya Upanishad says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. All this is Ishvara. All this is God. All this is Brahman. My question there is, do you see Brahman? Are you experiencing Brahman wherever you are seeing? The obvious answer is no. So then the question is how? How are you not able to see? It is Brahman is existing. No, the Vedas have said, so many people have experienced it. There's a truth. You must see Brahman. No, I am not seeing. Then is the question comes, why? Why am I not able to see Brahman? Then the entire Shastra begins. Okay, now let me try to explain why you are not able to see Brahman. Because of this, because of this, because of this. Now you are coming to a question of how can all this contain Brahman? But all this is containing Brahman because you are not able to see Brahman today. So there is something that is blocking. Of course, the finite cannot, it is just like this. Let me give you this analogy. This analogy is given a lot in Vedanta. On a cloudy day, right? Or on a very heavy rains, especially Mumbaikars will know that a lot. The entire sky turns dark, right? There is complete darkness. It's very, very little light and it all looks completely gloomy. We say the sun has disappeared. What contained the light of the sun? The clouds. The heavy dark clouds contained the light of the sun. Are the clouds capable of containing the light of the sun in reality? What is the sun and what is the cloud? The cloud is nothing, it is peanuts in front of the sun, if you look at academically. And in that front of that heat, the cloud cannot even stand. And you are knowing the cloud also because of the light of the sun. See, there are so many ironies associated. The cloud cannot contain the sun. The cloud is being known because of the sun. Despite all this, we say that the cloud has hidden the sun. Why do we say the cloud has hidden the sun then? So can this cloud block the sun? In reality, no, it cannot block. But because you're standing below the cloud and you're seeing something, your vision is problematic. You have a vision that is problematic and you're making a conclusion and inference. The same is the case with Maya or Avidya or Anandamaya Kosha. You're standing, your focal point is somewhere else. So there is blockage that is coming. But the moment you know the reality, you will know that I was wrong. The Anandamaya Kosha is nothing compared to Brahman. It doesn't even exist. Only Brahman is there. So it is that kind of, it is only an analogy again. All these analogies will help us try to understand somewhere what it is, but it won't give you that thing. That is why the Vedanta stops at a point. Beyond that, you cannot express in words. It stops. But again, I just have tried to explain whatever little the Vedanta still explains in words.
We go towards the last question because we really don't have time.
Sure.
Like, though we said about Shravanam and all, can you please like throw some light on Mananam as we learn to chat? Like how to do Mananam?
See, the Shastra has very clearly defined what is Shravanam, Mananam and all, right? What is to be Shravanam? Shravanam doesn't mean hearing anything. Okay, what is to be heard is also very defined in Shravanam, in the Shastras. So Shravanam is hearing about that Atma Tattvam, about the Vedanta, whatever those Mahavakyas and other things are being told about the Atman, constantly hearing them. What you do by constantly hearing them, when you constantly hear them, you also start, then you have to start thinking what it means. Are there contradictions? These are all the normal things. Okay, the Vedas say that this is the statement, but I don't experience it. So then is it true? So all this comes under Mananam. And Mananam also says you have to use the different acharyas and other people have tried to explain these things. So read all those things, understand, and then convince yourself that no, what the Vedas say are right. And this is the conviction. Through Mananam means through constant and proper thinking, you bring the conviction of whatever you have heard. So Shravanam is when you hear, Mananam is when you bring the conviction of the truth. So you are ready to, you have accepted. Whatever you have heard has been accepted by you. The moment acceptance comes into you, Nididhyasanam means becoming one with that, experiencing that truth. So the Nididhyasanam starts with experiencing that truth. So the first is hearing, second is convincing yourself and accepting it as a part of yourself, and third is experiencing it. So Mananam is an in-between state of conviction.
Thank you so much. There are lots of questions, but we are really sorry. We will try to answer them onto the WhatsApp group. Okay.
Sure.
And let me thank everybody. But first, I thank Bhagwan for making us instrument in this beautiful presentation that we are trying to bring in front of everybody. And thank you, Brother Subramaniam, for sharing your knowledge on Nirvana Shatkam. And yes, your valuable time. Okay. Yes, we want to thank all our viewers, the moderators, and the technical assistance team, and Kalyan Samiti for helping us with the digital platforms to conduct this program. And lastly, I request everybody to please be with us for all the prayers in the end, because that is like the prayers which we are offering to Bhagwan for the well-being of the entire world. So thank you, everybody. Sai Ram.
Om Tat Sat Shri Narayana Tu Purushottama Guru Tu Siddha Buddha Tu Skanda Vinayaka Savita Pavaka Tu Savita Pavaka Tu Brahmastatu Yahvashaktitu Yeshu Pita Prabhutu Rudra Vishnutu Rama Krishnatu Rahimatavotu Rahimatavotu Vasudeva Govishwarupatu Chidananda Haritu Advitiyatu Akalanirbhaya Atmalinga Shivatu Atmalinga Shivatu Atmalinga Shivatu
ॐ जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपदान्धवा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे मातपिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्रशयन ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी हो साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल आरती अंधुको मंत्र गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री